Welcome to day 2 of HR Tech. I'm Mimi Brooks, the CEO of Logical Design Solutions, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak with you today about building the sustainable, high-performance organizations of tomorrow. Organizational transformation has always been at the heart of our work at LDS as we develop digital strategies and roadmaps and build innovative and game-changing employee experiences. In strategy, we focus not only on the changing marketplace, but on purpose and culture and leadership as input to new operating models. I'd like to set the stage for this talk with just a bit of history. Long before the COVID pandemic and before U.S. President Biden's campaign, the Third UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction met in Sendai, Japan in 2015 and negotiated a document that was later adopted at the UN General Assembly. This document, known as the United Nations Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, outlined a holistic plan to create more resilient nations and societies. As a result of the multinational negotiations surrounding the formulation of this plan, a concept emerged known as Build Back Better. It was a catchphrase that had first been used following the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami relief effort and later cited by then-President Bill Clinton about Haiti after the political upheaval and storms of 2008. This Building Back Better idea included the restoration of infrastructure, the revitalization of livelihood and industry, and the rehabilitation of the local culture and environment following a catastrophic event, such as what we've been experiencing over the last 12 months. The Build Back Better slogan has now become an integral part of the vernacular of influencers from around the world, from Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum to Bill Gates, to Jacinda Ardern, the current Prime Minister of New Zealand. The truth is that business was unprepared for the global impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Leaders had to navigate a range of issues from keeping their employees safe, shoring up cash and liquidity, reorienting operations, and navigating complicated government support programs. As with previous crises, we now see the opportunity for business to demonstrate resilience by transforming and even thriving through revitalization and innovation. Those businesses that are adaptable and collaborative will be most capable of dealing with the challenges that face us all in the post-pandemic era. Building resilience in the longer term will involve adaptations to global supply chains and areas like production, human resources, and communications, while also embracing diversification and developing more robust industry alliances. So just what are the mega challenges facing businesses in the post-pandemic era, and how will we build back better? At a high level, they would obviously include workforce relocation, as well as the effects of the pandemic on globalization, where we still see significant supply chain restructuring triggered by the delays we experienced at the height of the crisis, as well as manufacturing resettlement closer to home. We're also seeing companies needing to take extra steps to ensure employee well-being, while the impacts of the pandemic on society spurs a renewed focus on corporate purpose and ensuring that environmental, societal, and governance concerns are addressed as global warming, the use of fossil fuels, and limited sustainability take center stage. The development of ecosystems to tap into rampant innovation is also bound to be high on every corporate agenda, and there will be big challenges on the technology front as we see accelerated development of next-generation remote working technologies, such as augmented and virtual reality, as well as exponential advances in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotics. Corporate responsibilities are expanding with a focus on economic inequality, coupled with concerns about the living wage and the growing digital divide. This is the best opportunity for companies to instigate stakeholder capitalism during what the World Economic Forum is calling the Great Reset. It is also clear that companies must take the initiative and regain public trust when it comes to defending our institutions and the private sector in general as one of the pillars of society, not only by driving healthy economic growth, but also through social inclusion, environmental protection, and seeking to build new foundations for our economic and social systems. On the business front, the consulting firm McKinsey wrote in a recent article that companies must, quote, increase the speed of decision-making while improving productivity, using technology and data in new ways, and accelerating the scope and scale of innovation. Yet well before COVID-19 became part of our everyday vocabulary, we saw the evolution of new digital infrastructure during the first wave of transformation in what we now understand as the Fourth Industrial Revolution. As we transitioned from the first to the second wave, most companies were recognizing early the need for organizational and work transformation. New human work started blending with machine-driven interactions as organizations transformed into open constellations, business ecosystems, if you will, that were bonded by shared purpose and culture. On the horizon is Wave 3, what we call institutional innovation. Here we're seeing business ecologies being redefined as the digital age matures and organizations realize their potential to mobilize larger and more diverse groups of participants to innovate and create new value. The essential outcomes of organizational transformation needed in the second wave of the new organization is a business digital ecosystem driven by human value and purpose. That the worker is central by design to the organizational ecosystem through new work practices. That human workers are comfortable with their machine counterparts and a collaborative human-machine approach to problem solving evolves. That the organization learns on multiple timescales as a competitive necessity and a source of economic value. And finally, that knowledge flows within and among ecosystems as the edges of digital become the core. Allied to the evolution of the second wave, we see three key organizational transformation principles that dovetail with the Build Back Better concept and pave the way for corporate resilience and recovery in the post-pandemic era. These are leading with purpose, systems thinking, and acting in the interest of humans. I'd like to describe each of these important distinctions in just a bit more detail. The first principle is leading with purpose. As Mark Twain famously wrote, the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. A clear business purpose provides the foundation for institutional value. Purpose is stated as an intention, but it is evidenced through the actions and decisions and rewards that become culture. In August 2019, the influential Business Roundtable redefined the purpose of a corporation when a group of 181 influential CEOs committed to lead their companies for the benefit of all stakeholders, to include customers, employees, suppliers, communities, and shareholders. According to Jamie Dimon, chairman and CEO of JPMorgan Chase & Company, and the chairman of the Business Roundtable, quote, major employers are investing in their workers and communities because they know it's the only way to be successful over the long term. These modernized principles reflect the business community's unwavering commitment to continue to push for an economy that serves all Americans. This commitment to purpose is also where we see the early foundations of third-wave institutional innovation as leaders seek to redefine the rationale for their companies and develop new relationship architectures within and across the organization to break existing performance trade-offs and expand the realm of what is possible. Purpose and culture are also the starting point for all transformational employee experiences. The second principle of organizational transformation is thinking in systems. This is really a combination of both design thinking and systems thinking. While design thinking is a people-centered process that embraces emotions and the human connection, systems thinking is about nonlinear relationships where concepts and practical frameworks can be applied to better understand the complexity of a dynamic organization, such as identifying new value through interconnected business ecologies and activating business ecosystems through platforms. Here we can also consider the influx of technology fueled by exponential growth of global data and digital technologies. Thinking in systems gives us a good foundation to manage organizational complexity while providing a framework to design the journeys for people in a better workplace of tomorrow. Peter Senge wrote that systems thinking is a holistic framework for seeing interrelationships rather than things, for seeing patterns of change rather than static snapshots. Our third principle is acting in the interests of humans. The American chocolate maker and philanthropist Milton Hershey put it bluntly more than a century ago when he said, quote, "Business is a matter of human service." As we examine the post-pandemic next normal, we have a profound opportunity to reimagine ways of working as well as norms of human interest and interaction that help create a cohesive culture, generate social solidarity, strengthen purpose, boost resilience, and build shared trust and cooperation. While we rightly refer to the Great Reset at an organizational level, we must also consider that society and our workers therein have also hit the reset button due to multiple tipping point moments, not least the current pandemic, that have caused us to rethink old ways of behaving and to reevaluate our chosen pathways. Moving forward, while few businesses may be able to fulfill workers' demand for stability in this age of uncertainty, what we must be able to promise is their continued relevance in a rapidly changing world. As you can see from this expanded view of our model, and not surprisingly, there are many aspects to consider when we look at the evolution of organizational systems in a digital age characterized by uncertainty. We all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has led to a period of enormous uncertainty for businesses around the world. Today, organizations face unprecedented challenges and need to mitigate both financial and operational risks, as well as disruption to business continuity. Leading with purpose, systems thinking, and acting in the interest of humans are all taking center stage in this environment. Now let's look at each of these principles in action at a high level. In our first dimension of leading the organization of the future with purpose, we look at managing organizational complexity as geographic diversification, investment in secondary markets, and expanding mergers and acquisitions become commonplace for competitive companies. If we accept that to survive, our businesses must create new products and services, find new markets, or develop novel ecosystems, then we must also acknowledge that we need to address growing complexity. Even as our structures evolve, our workers need new skills, and everyone finds it more difficult to get value-added work accomplished. This highlights the problem that if our time, energy, and resources are wasted on activities and interactions that did not create value, then the complexity that accompanies growing the company becomes problematic and even detrimental to the workforce. In an article entitled "Taming Complexity" in the Harvard Business Review, Marvin Reeves writes that, quote, "Managers may prefer simplicity over complexity, but the truth is that complexity is increasingly necessary for viable and competitive businesses in today's dynamic, unpredictable business environment." Simplification, then, is quite an important idea, especially to HR, as helping the business to untangle and remove organizational complexity is important in our org designs, as well as in our own HR services that we offer to employees and workers. The second wave of leading with purpose pertains to embracing continual transformation in the post-pandemic era. Here we're referring to embracing and managing a continual and fluid portfolio of always-on change initiatives. This requires not only a transformation to agile ways of working, but also agility that is built right into the operating model and then reinforced and executed on in everyday leadership. While leaders don't need to be futurists, they should be future sensing and capable of establishing momentum even as the essential steps are being learned along the way. This is the essence of the idea that change becomes an organizational capability deeply embedded in the DNA of the organization. We see HR leaders playing a pivotal role in continual transformation, particularly as it relates to attracting and developing the right talent, fully engaging the organization around the overarching business strategy, and helping to build a cohesive culture that supports transformative change. Our third dimension of leading with purpose looks at the advocacy of resilient designs, whether it be the development of agile operations, the improvement of cybersecurity, the acceleration of business ecosystems and digital platforms, the empowerment of workers, or the strengthening of financials. We can expect to see more resilient corporate designs as companies adapt to the fact that it may be necessary to correct course quickly. Companies are transitioning from designing for efficiency through streamlining roles, supply chains, and workflows, which exposed fragilities as there was no flexibility to respond to disruptions, to designing for resiliency by molding roles and structures around outcomes, thereby increasing agility and formalizing how processes can flex. This will also provide employees with varied adaptive roles, so they'll need to acquire durable, cross-functional skills and knowledge. In today's business world, resilience from an HR perspective means that we must develop agile and instantaneous responses to innovations or events that promise to reshape careers, change cultural norms, or transform our technological frameworks. We must also pay close attention to the effects of these changes on worker well-being, workplace design, and other factors, and take steps as necessary to support the human factors that are an inherent part of any business transformation initiative. Our fourth dimension of leading with purpose is what we refer to as acting for the common good. Here we're referring to the theory that the social responsibility of every organization counterbalances the firm's traditional responsibility to obtain the greatest possible profit for its shareholders. This idea has become increasingly important due to issues like increased economic inequality, racial injustice, and climate change. Pressure is mounting on companies to disclose targets on environmental, social, and governmental issues such as carbon emissions, responsible water use, and health and safety. As such, the organization's ability to meet these goals becomes a strategic priority. Also, the private enterprise economics that have driven businesses for the past 50 years are being seriously challenged by the reemergence of stakeholder capitalism. This is now relevant to all companies' financial performance and resilience, and many are shifting their business models to create new value by engaging all stakeholders in a purpose-driven organization focused on the common good. HR executives are at the forefront of the organizational response to deliver new business models, thinking through the skills, structures, and culture required. For some companies, this could mean replacing financial rewards with incentives such as social recognition and employee ownership schemes. Although part of the principle of thinking in systems, closely allied to acting in the interests of humans is the essential definition of human-machine interaction. For many organizations, the amount of fully automated work will be small compared to the amount of work expected to be performed in a hybrid partnership. As humans increasingly take their hands on and off the wheel at work and rely on machines to do as much as possible, this area will be a critical focus of organization and work design. We are quite unprepared for this challenge, with issues ranging from ethical design to social and economic policies and to ready leadership and an equipped workforce. To elaborate a bit further, increased human-machine interaction in artificial intelligence is having a profound effect on the employee experience. We can imagine at least 5 distinct human-artificial intelligence interaction modes emerging. As an automator, AI has all the context and can decide without human intervention. As a decider, it reaches a conclusion but leaves it to humans to implement the solution. Artificial intelligence as a recommender relies on humans to provide the business context, while as an illuminator, it means that the machine can inform at least some of the creative process. Finally, artificial intelligence as an evaluator means that it can take hypothetical situations and assess these to provide insights to human operators. Understanding which interaction model applies to which tasks helps us to understand the optimal human-machine work across reconstructed jobs and processes, and therefore the requirements for a superior worker experience. HR may find it useful to create a view of 2B worker segments, profiles, and personas representative of the future workforce. As a common asset for business units and functions, these profiles can be a foundation for implementing the intelligent interface design best fitted for the future user, as well as task and workflow design, productivity, and learning period minimization. The second dimension of thinking in systems is that of activating ecosystems via platforms. Here we see platforms activating complex business ecosystems and leveraging the combinatorial power of progressive digital technologies to facilitate frictionless interactions among workers, partners, suppliers, and customers, while creating new value for the business, such as efficiencies in maximizing asset utilization, reduced transaction costs, symbiotic relationships in new work, trust and transparency, and growth in dynamic markets, while leaving learnings behind for all. Bear in mind that the employee experience, worker experience, and customer experience are all platforms in their own right, built increasingly on the value of give-and-take relationships of platform participants across a flat, democratic, social, and fluid ecosystem. These platforms are the street-level view of emerging business ecosystems from the vantage point of the people who most need to believe in the organization's purpose and mission and new operating model. HR's interest broadly in offering compelling digital platforms and experiences that customers, partners, and employees crave is significant as these experiences accelerate transformation by empowering the organization to be digital at its core. The third dimension of thinking in systems is that of directing technological influx. Here we look at the influx of technology and its impact on the employee experience. This will continue unabated as wearable devices, virtual and augmented reality, online learning, expanded data collection, analytics, increased cloud computing and 5G activity, as well as AI, ML, and robotics become ever more commonplace. All these assets can combine to have a significant impact on the employee experience and bring us closer to the point of work in terms of experiential value. Right now, the market space for technologies that power employee experiences is expanding and transforming in significant and exciting ways. HR cloud platform providers like Workday are innovating through their acquisition of Peakon, folding in employee listening and engagement capabilities. Microsoft has announced a new portfolio of offerings in their Viva platform that will weave together communications and culture, productivity and well-being, organizing and exposing enterprise knowledge, and elevating learning by improving discoverability and sharing. All of these increasingly powerful technology enablers are a part of every employee experience that we're working on today. We're at a place and time where the kinds of smart, seamless, engaging experiences we've dreamed about enabling people with are increasingly within the realm of possibility. When we look at our third principle, acting in the interest of humans, one of our primary considerations is building cultural cohesion within the organization. Obviously, this is a dimension that is also strongly associated with leading with purpose. Entirely new ways of working are highlighting the need for purpose and cultural evolution as topics like diversity, human centricity, and inclusion are emerging to inspire and motivate the workforce. A carefully scripted and credible purpose provides the workforce with a tangible and compelling reason for its existence in the first place. Purpose must be viewed as the cornerstone that provides alignment, clarity, guidance, and cohesive energy in a dynamic environment driven by an ever-changing business model. Culture then liberates and empowers people to act in support of purpose by focusing on values, behaviors, and growth mindsets. It encourages and provides context to the work practices of collaboration, agility, continuous learning, and innovation. And it must also engage and empower people by enriching on-the-job experiences and giving workers the chance to make a real difference in their daily contributions. A cohesive culture starts with core values that must be integrated within every aspect of the organization and critically modeled and led by 21st century leadership practices that are more collaborative and less directive. These include the ability to navigate through ambiguity, tension, and paradox while exemplifying a growth mindset. The second dimension of acting in the interests of humans is the design of hybrid virtual workplaces. The pandemic accelerated the evolution of hybrid virtual workplaces exponentially by necessarily combining office work with working from home or another remote location. We now see companies considering three different models. The first is to have employees working in the office while others work remotely. The second is to have all employees spending part of their work week in the office and part of the work week remotely. And the third would be a combination of the first and second models. Notwithstanding the model chosen, hybrid virtual workplaces are here to stay, and leadership must address challenges such as maintaining the human connection, the absence or diminished impact of office culture, potentially lower levels of focus and the heightened need for time management skills, leadership challenges in managing in these new models, and technological security threats. Human resources can help to equip leaders to manage remote teams over the long haul, but also to preserve company culture with a more distributed workforce. Also, by fostering employee engagement through scheduling regular virtual events, setting fair benchmarks and payment practices, allowing workers to have a voice in hybrid virtual work policies, and being open to change. HR can become an active driver of progressive remote working experiences. The third and final dimension of acting in the interest of humans is operationalizing new models for jobs. Redesigning work, the human tasks and roles in future automated work, is an iterative process of deconstruction and reimagination based on new work models. We can anticipate the impact of emerging work everywhere models where work comes to people and people operate outside of rigid job and organizational structures. With machines lifting more repetitive work and predicting operational performance and future work, worker experiences focus on augmenting people in their new human work. Customer centricity, judgment, risk mitigation, and creativity become the experience focus in new work environments where people engage in a wide range of projects that flow in fluid cycles as customer needs and operational priorities dictate. In its latest Future of Jobs report, the World Economic Forum estimates that 50% of all employees will be reskilling by 2025. The forum also predicts that 85 million jobs may be displaced by a shift in the division of labor between humans and machines, but that even more jobs, almost 100 million of them, may emerge that are more adapted to the new division of labor between humans, machines, and algorithms. Last, but certainly not least, employee experience strategies are the river that runs through our entire model. As we saw earlier, purpose and culture are the starting point for all transformational employee experiences, while technologies that empower employee experiences are expanding and transforming in significant and exciting ways. In summary, we must design innovative and engaging experiences that enable our growth strategies, where peer-to-peer participation, networking in platforms, real-time and shared learning, the free flow of ideas across business units and divisions, the incentives that motivate people, and the opportunities to contribute their very best are all available and encouraged. People should be able to bring their personal brand to work and become known or found and tapped for a wide range of expertise and interests beyond their immediate job skill requirements. In presenting my thoughts around building the organization of the future, I've highlighted three key business principles of leading with purpose, systems thinking, and acting in the interests of humans. From those vantage points, we've looked at some of the underlying dimensions that encapsulate what we see as the critical areas of focus for the post-pandemic era. Driven by the concept of Build Back Better, we can use these fundamentals to address the restoration of infrastructure, the revitalization of livelihood and industry, and the rehabilitation of the local culture and environment following a catastrophic event. As we know all too well at this point, the current situation has impacted the lives of over 7.5 billion people on this planet in ways that none of us could ever have imagined. It's confronted us with the challenge of redefining the role of business as usual by elaborating on the purpose of the corporation through advocating resilient designs, demonstrating dynamic leadership, managing complexity, and acting for the common good. It has also inspired us to bring systems thinking out of the realm of machines and algorithms and into the physical world, showing us how to develop the strategic approaches to business that thought leaders around the globe consider critical for post-pandemic recovery. While the pandemic has confronted our way of working and reminded us of the need to live responsibly and sustainably while focusing on our well-being as a society, we now need to define the optimal way for companies to act in the best interests of humanity moving forward, while bearing in mind that COVID-19 has forever changed the experience of being a customer, an employee, a citizen, and even a human. Even as we strive to build cultural cohesion, operationalize new models for jobs, and find ways to teach new skills to our hybrid virtual workforces as part of acting in the interests of humans, we must also listen acutely and sharpen our abilities to react to changes in behavior on a scale unlike anything that we've seen before. We must monitor, collect, analyze, and act on signals that suggest sea changes in the experience of our employees. In short, the successful organization of the future will be the one that can adapt more quickly to the post-pandemic world order by demonstrating resilience and the ability to transform in the face of adversity. Before I take questions, let me conclude with this final point. As the workforce adapts to greater autonomy regarding where and how work takes place, business leaders must take the initiative to engage and empower employees by embracing individuality and the essential human connection in extenuating circumstances to nurture richer culture, higher engagement, more creativity, and better business results. I believe this is the essential pathway towards building the sustainable, high-performance organizations of tomorrow. Thank you for your time and attention. If anyone has any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to take them now.